Welcome to another edition of Cafecito Conversations. Today I'm meeting with dear friend and colleague Luchy Guerra, and I have my coffee mug ready, and Luchy does too, to have a coffee conversation. I have our little coffee house behind us, Luchy, and in lieu of being able to actually meet together, we wanted to Zoom together a coffee time. And so thank you so much for taking time with me today. And
Absolutely.
it's just a joy to be with you again. And you know what's
Likewise.
been on my heart lately is looking into the future of APU with renewed optimism and anticipation of our strategic plan. And the strategic plan is going to be rolling out shortly. So I just wanted to ask you, from your perspective and your expertise and all your experiences, some of your thoughts on how we'll bring people to the table. You see, I have a table in back with the coffee house.
Sure.
How can we bring a multitude of voices to the table? And especially I wanted to get your perspective on the importance of staff voice. And so what might that look like as we move ahead with especially our diversity and equity plans and planning together a new strategic plan for the university?
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for the opportunity to meet for a cafecito. In my culture, we do cafecitos too, and it's a very, very important part of how we do business. It's just right after lunch, we have to have a little cafecito.
That's what I'm doing.
But regarding the strategic plan, obviously it's a very integral, very important component of what APU is and will be in the future.
Yes.
And specifically regarding staff, and especially now that I'm serving in the Office of Human Resources, obviously faculty and staff is at this is the center of what we do and who we strive to make better, improve, recruit quality, as well as not only recruit but retain quality faculty and staff. So at the center of the strategic plan for me is, as you mentioned, the voices or the voice that a staff member or staff members can have. And the analogy that I present in terms of what people can bring to the table is, if you're an able-bodied, you might have 5 fingers in one hand. I come from a family where we are 5 living siblings. And just like 5 fingers in one hand, they're so important, and each has its particular role. Obviously, we all tend to use the ring finger, put rings in a ring finger, and so on. I happen to be the middle child. In that same way, people are different in terms of what they bring to the table. So it's important for people to have their voices heard, and not only have their voices heard, but have an opportunity to have a forum like what we'll have that next week in terms of the town hall meeting, where people have an opportunity to ask questions and have their voices heard. So I think it's super important to provide a forum or an opportunity where people feel heard. And I am extremely proud of what our staff council is doing. They're really bringing people together and promoting and catapulting the role that staff should have at our dear university.
Wonderful, Luchy. And so let's talk a little bit about the role of staff council, especially if those that are watching our Cafecito are not as familiar with all the work a staff council does. So maybe a little bit about the vision that Staff Council has moving ahead, and also how you envision Staff Council bringing those voices to the table.
I think staff council is such a critical component. And when I came to APU, I don't think that staff council was as active as it is today. So part of what I'm very proud of is how they've promoted initiatives to bring staff and staff issues together. There are several subcommittees within staff council. There's a communication one, and there's you're probably familiar with, there's a benevolence fund where people are, when there are issues or hardships that staff, that particular staff members are going through, there's such a fund where there's a process for people to apply for the benevolence fund, and as well as many other initiatives that promote the wellness and just the for the benefit of staff on campus.
Excellent. And you mentioned that uniqueness, Luchy, of the hand and all the voices that come to the table. We thank you for being part of that and for being a central voice. So what might you tell either a current staff council person or a staff person or an ambassador who's a staff person about what to look forward to in this next year?
I really think one of the key components that a staff person might see, be it an ambassador or a staff council person, is that APU is really striving to have cohesiveness and unity. I know we tend to joke with the expression unity in the community, but I see it very strongly that we're striving to have more of a unified sense that we're all striving for the same goals. We might take them differently, just like different fingers in one hand might approach things differently. But in the end, we all want to be difference makers, transformational staff and faculty members.
Beautiful. Unity in community.
Unity in community.
And thank you so much for our Cafecito time. Thank you for the important voice that you bring to ambassadors, to the table, to staff council, to leadership. Wherever you've been in the APU world, you have continued to be influential and an advocate for diversity. And we are very blessed that you're with us today. So thank you, Luchy, and thank you for joining me in a Cafecito conversation.
Thank you, Richard. Likewise.